Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. This is News9. Let's start with our top stories. Headlines first. Get ready for satellite internet in India. Jio Satellite Communications and Bharti-backed OneWeb receive licenses to provide satellite broadband services. And BYJU'S is on a sacking spree. EdTech giant fires further 600 employees from content and marketing teams amid restructuring exercise. As Indians take to festive buying, Amazon releases data on customer shopping insights. Shoppers are eyeing premium items, 1 out of 4 purchases made on EMI. And flying taxis are here. IndiGo wants to take you from Delhi to Gurugram in just under 7 minutes through a flying taxi. Partners with Archer Aviation to launch air taxi service across India in 2026. All those stories right here with News9 with me, Karthik Malhotra in the studio. Karthik, good morning.
Hi, Shweta. How are you?
Hello, I'm very well. How are you?
All right, doing well.
Let's start with the first story that we are tracking, and that is, actually let's start with the story that has made me very excited, and that is Jio.
Which one? There are so many of them today, Shweta.
But okay, all right. So let's start with the Jio's and Bharti Airtel's satellite internet service. Satellite internet service is finally here. It's become a reality. They've got the licenses.
So they've got the license, yes, they haven't yet got the spectrum allocation. And that is pending right now at the end of TRAI, because TRAI has not yet been able to get a new chairman, and that vacancy has been pending for a while. But finally, the government has given a go-ahead, a license, and there are 2 licenses involved here. They already have the first one. The second one is specifically an ISP license, which is an internet service provider license, specifically linked to using VSAT and other technologies to be able to transmit data to and from satellites, and thereby using satellites to actually be able to transmit internet and high-speed data connectivity to remote locations within the country.
Does this mean internet access everywhere at all time?
So I think there is still a lot of clarity awaited, Shweta. What this definitely means is that as service providers, they can now, both Jio as well as Airtel, Jio using the Jio space fiber and Airtel using the Airtel OneWeb, can actually go ahead and start offering these services as soon as they have access to spectrum.
Okay.
Right. Until they have access to spectrum, obviously this is a bit of a challenge. They can't commercially roll it out despite the license. But what this entails is that now whatever you want to do, let's say in terms of laying of optical fiber networks, which Reliance had done very seamlessly and had spent billions of dollars worth of investments laying off the cables for 5G speeds, for connectivity of internet to locations across India. But the cost sort of becomes prohibitive when you want to take it to really far-flung, rural, deep-rooted territories within the country. What satellite internet does primarily is, again, this whole vision of the Ambani family, of Mukesh Ambani as well as now the sons, really pushing the envelope when it comes to connectivity for all, making India 2G Mukt, all of that. So all that ties in well together, because now using satellite connectivity, you can throw internet, beam internet, 5G speed, broadband type internet to these far-flung areas, and you don't have to lay those cables and spend on that infrastructure.
So no more digging the ground.
No more digging the ground, no more, multiple reams and reams of cables being dug and spread across the length and breadth of the country. Now, to answer your specific question, is it going to be internet everywhere? I think that would be the eventual goal, both for Reliance, Jio as well as Bharti Airtel. I think the eventual goal would be like when you go to the US, you go to Singapore, you go to UK, any of these more developed countries, you actually have internet pretty much on the tap everywhere you go. You just need to latch onto that city's internet. So I think the eventual goal will be to get there. But the immediate problem that satellite internet and by way of these licenses will solve is remote, far-flung rural connectivity without really investing and opting for subsidies to keep cost low for the rural folk to actually, get access to high-speed internet. I think that gets solved immediately, and internet everywhere should hopefully be the next step.
All right, internet everywhere. And will it be internet at a speed, at a higher speed, obviously, but will it be affordable is the question. At least imminently, let's say within next year, if satellite internet gets rolled out, will it be affordable?
So I think the whole push for satellite-based internet, for rural connectivity and far-flung remote connectivity is to keep it affordable.
Okay.
Because if you were to lay the traditional OFN cables across the length and breadth of the country, which you've done already, and the private sector has done that tremendously, but then to lay that sort of infrastructure to reach the far-flung areas, you would require the government's support, you would require subsidies to keep the cost affordable, you know, for the far-flung areas. But with satellite connectivity, I think that has been the real push, that you can keep cost low and you can make internet available pretty much in every corner of the country. Now, obviously, there is great deal of competition also, which is likely to come in this space, which will keep the costs under pressure.
And competitive.
And competitive.
So you have the Jio, you have the Airtel, and you also have Starlink.
You have Starlink and you also have Amazon now coming into the fray. Both Starlink, which is you know, run by, owned by Elon Musk, as well as Amazon have not yet received the government's go-ahead. They haven't yet received the license. But they have applied for it. And they are waiting in the fray, get that approval, and enter the market and provide internet. So I think overall, there is going to be a cost competitiveness, like we have seen the data wars panning out on ground. We will see those data wars panning out in outer space as well. And internet connectivity, affordability, access to all would be pretty much the principles that every ISP out there would want to provide using satellite networks. And I think those who are unable to sustain businesses by way of keeping these costs low will have their days numbered, and those who have deeper pockets will obviously keep prices low till as long as they have the absolute authority and you know, monopoly, if I may, to move prices up.
And before we move on, when can we expect to roll out? Jio got a license a couple of months ago. OneWeb, Airtel's OneWeb got it now.
That's right, that's right.
When can we expect to roll out?
I think it's all right now dependent on spectrum allocation and spectrum auctions, as we've seen decades ago, and a continuing story. I think more than time, Shweta, it's also a function of a lot of legalities, a lot of clearances, a lot of auction bidding, etc. So I think the spectrum allocation is something which is the single you know, key determinant right now in being able to guess or not guess a timeline. So I think maybe we should definitely expect it should come through soon after the new TRAI chairman comes to office and the process gets kick-started. So yeah, I think, you know, just to take a wild guess right now, mid next year is when we should hopefully start receiving some satellite signals for internet.
That's a good timeline. Mid next year is by when you can expect satellite internet to finally make a debut in India. Remember, OneWeb and Jio already have procured license. We are given to understand Amazon and Starlink are also ready with their application and could be given a license anytime now. So more competition heating up in the internet space. But moving on to a story that makes headlines days after days, BYJU'S, it appears, is sacking more people, as many as 600 employees, specifically from content and marketing team. This is a part of the restructuring exercise which has been on now for a while. They want to cut cost and cut cost wherever they can. Content marketing team perhaps first one to begin with? So
not the first, in fact, Shweta. I'm hoping this would be the last team to finally now get sacked. We've seen spades and spades of sacking at BYJU'S over the last 1 year, definitely. And within this 1 year, we've also seen multiple other challenges come to the surface when it comes to BYJU'S. Number one, of course, its valuation taking a major dent from about $22.8 billion coming down to the vicinity of $5 to $6 billion. So it was once a decacorn twice over, and now just about half, five times a unicorn. So it's obviously, its reputation has taken a beating. The whole edtech model has taken a beating, and revenues have been dwindling, even though the FY22 financial reports, which got filed just about a week ago, first week of November, saw that BYJU'S did register a 2x growth in profit. Its losses are still, despite losses narrowing, the losses are still there on the books of FY22. And FY22 is, in fact, before the problems really started coming to surface. It is going to be FY23, which is going to be the real determinant of what the real state of affairs at BYJU'S is. My guess at this point, and just a guess, I don't have access to the numbers of BYJU'S for FY23, but I have a feeling 22-23 was the year where edtech started backing down, when people started getting their children back to regular school. and you really saw this frenzy of EdTech die down gradually. So I think the growth that it registered in FY22 would not be at the same clip as its books should register in FY23, and its losses
so you're expecting more turbulence?
should widen. Yeah, so I'm expecting more turbulence, but again, that's just a guess at the moment, looking at the macro environment between FY22 and FY23. Now, specifically, we've seen offices have been shut down. As many as 6 offices of BYJU'S have been shut down from multiple cities, multiple locations. We've seen rounds after rounds of sacking, and now this latest one comes, 600 employees sacked from the content and marketing video team specifically. So I think at some level, the new CEO, Arjun Mohan, is also looking at a consolidation towards employees contributing to core businesses, profitable businesses should be part of this new restructure, and those who are contributing to fringe services, could have but not must have services, are the ones who are being shown the door. So will this be the last of the many rounds of sacking? We certainly hope so for the sake of employees, but it's difficult to pinpoint and put a sort of number to it, that is this really going to be the finality of sackings at BYJU'S or not. It has enough and more troubles.
It could just be a start of a major restructuring process which is currently on, and letting go of lots of employees.
So I think ever since this restructuring happened, we've seen offices shut down, and we've seen sackings, and we've seen the sale of Epic, and it hasn't yet been sold.
And I want to talk about that. Epic and Great Learning, we know they're up for grabs. Are there any takers?
So there are takers. I think the conversations are on. US-based companies in talks. There are 3-4 of them, which are in talks. But the latest that we saw, Shweta, was that Epic may actually get sold for about $400 million, while it was bought in 2021 for $500 million. So in any case, it's a garage sale, it's a distress sale. And the $1.2 billion term loan B that BYJU'S owes, it hasn't yet been able to assign a timeline to it, or a way by which it will be able to muster up enough funds to be able to pay that, repay that loan. So I think enough troubles at BYJU'S, and these troubles are not looking like they will end anytime soon. So I think a fundamental question to ask is that while you have a new CEO, you have Arjun Mohan, you have a new board of directors after many board of directors, many directors from the board had quit earlier this year. Is it time for the board to really finally come out with a decision that perhaps Baiju Ravindran need not stay at the company?
Okay, well, that would be an important decision. We don't know if that's going to be made. But yes, talks around BYJU'S and the uncertainty of what's going to happen next continue to mar not just employees, but a lot of people who have witnessed the magnificent growth of this edtech giant, whose valuation has since halved, less than half, quarter of a valuation at this point in time. But let's move on to a story that is coming in and maybe lift some spirits. Festive cheers, festive buying. People are buying, and people are buying in great numbers. I'm not saying so. Amazon is. Amazon's come out with its report on customer insights for people who bought during the Great India Sale. Some very interesting trends. But here's what I picked on. That is, out of all purchases made, or out of every purchase made, 4 people out of 1 out of 4 people is actually buying on EMI, which means they're buying more than they can afford at the moment.
Yeah, so that is excellent data coming in, Shweta, and I think let's address this first, and let's address it in the context of what people are buying as well. So the report released by Amazon India suggests that almost 110 crore visitors came to Amazon India's platform in the last 1 month, ever since the sale started on the 6th or 7th of October up until now. So in the last 1 month, 110 crore customers have visited Amazon India. Okay, India's total population is 140 crores. So, just putting that in context, 40 lakh customers are new customers, first time visitors. Now, where are these new as well as existing customers coming from, especially those who are actually checking out, buying something and checking out? About 80% of those are coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And what are they buying? They are buying 5G enabled smartphones.
So that's the most sold item.
Right. So that's the most sold item. 5G smartphones is what people want to buy, And this demand is coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. 5G smartphones are expensive. Tier 2, tier 3 cities don't have the same income levels as metropolitan cities or tier 1 cities. And hence, I think it seems lucrative for them to go ahead and opt for an EMI. And these EMI schemes are also fairly interesting because there are certain cards and certain schemes that offer you a no-cost EMI. So if you want to buy a 50,000 rupee phone and spread it over 6 months as EMI, you could actually get away by paying 0% interest on that EMI. So why would somebody not opt for that? Now, again, we could try and read between the lines and assume that that there isn't enough money available in the hands of the population in tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and hence they're opting for loan. But I think my counter to that, Shweta, politely, would be that if they don't have the money, then they would not really be making those high value purchases. And even if they do have the money, I think they're better off keeping that money in the bank, even if it earns them a very small interest rate, and pay this no cost EMI as opposed to taking money, all of it out of your bank and paying it and losing out on that interest delta as well. So this is my sort of reading of the situation. What else are people buying? So you have smartphones, definitely. People are buying large screen televisions, and these large screen televisions are 55 inches and upwards. People are buying smartwatches, and people are buying, not in as much measure, but people are buying white goods, within which I think one theme that is standing out for me is the fact that people are getting a little more health conscious. So what is in demand are air fryers, which require very little oil to fry those delicious pakoras. They have sports equipment, outdoor sports equipment, as well as home sports equipment, those dumbbells and those stretch bands, etc. So that is what people are buying. But I think the larger theme emerging, high value purchases, expensive premium products being purchased, the purchases coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and people not really opting for cash on delivery or making one-time purchases, rather splitting them into EMIs.
All right, those are interesting insights from the Amazon report. But all in all, I know you and I disagree on whether you should spend that money, whether you should save that money. I think we can agree that Indians are getting more aspirational.
No doubt, absolutely, Shweta.
Buying across
look at data across all aspects. I mean, there are the naysayers who say that the K-shaped recovery that India saw has actually widened the inequality gap. I don't contest that because I think there is data that supports that as well. But aspirations are a very different animal. So affordability and aspiration are two different issues altogether. Affordability for certain pockets may have gone down, but aspirations only continue to rise, which means we shall overcome and we will chug along and pull through.
So more premium items, more 5G enabled smartphones, more health conscious people buying stuff that they can consume, as well as wearable items. All of those, of course, are indicators and sites coming in through Amazon Festive report. But moving on to a story again, which is very exciting. Flying taxis are here. They are fine. I mean, this is something that I think I was very excited about this morning. For the longest time, we talked about future of mobility. This is the future of mobility. When you have enough taxis on ground and enough air pollution as is, what happens next?
And these are electric air taxis.
These are electric air taxis. So tell us what's happened. We know it's going to be IndiGo. IndiGo has tied up with Archer Aviation. What are they going to do?
Right, Shweta, I hate to be the party spoiler, especially as we head into the weekend. But, first when I saw the news item this morning, I thought maybe, hey, maybe I'm not looking at it, reading it correctly. Then I looked at the date on the masthead and I said, okay, it's not 1st April, so nobody's kidding anybody here, right? But then the suspicion starts coming in. So I think overall, great. Air taxis, great idea. It's an idea which has seen some sort of attraction in the West. Enough and more companies in Silicon Valley offering air taxi services, not flying people, but getting enough funding to enable them to be able to fly people going forward. Now, what is IndiGo really planning to do? I think the Archer Aviation IndiGo MOU suggests that IndiGo will seek Archer's investments and help in developing as many as 200 air taxis. These 200 air taxis will be deployed perhaps as early as starting 2026 in Delhi, Mumbai and Bengaluru. Rightly so, I think the most traffic-ridden cities in the country, and these 3 cities are going to get the first lot of air taxis. However, to play the party spoiler, party pooper, there isn't a government nod on air taxis in India yet. Will it happen till 2026? We don't know, because, you know, if you remember, Shweta, let me jog your memory, 5 years, 6 years back, there were talks about your pizza getting delivered using a drone. There were talks of Amazon and Flipkart delivering your couriers using drones and getting them right to your doorstep or right till your balcony. And air deliveries were something that were really talked about and very evangelistic in their approach towards the future of logistics. It never really happened. At best, what we saw, thankfully, was during COVID, certain drones were used to transport medicines to far-flung areas, right? But beyond that, or even vaccinations, if I remember correctly. So beyond that, beyond this emergency usage, we haven't seen drone deliveries pick up. Because there are multiple, there are air pockets, there are civil aviation norms that come in, there are clearances required. You cannot be at a certain altitude, you cannot fly in a certain area. You will need a lot of other communication infrastructure like ATC, etc. to be set up. So if something as small as a delivery drone could not see light of the day, we are here talking about an air taxi that can accommodate 4 passengers and 1 pilot stroke driver, depending on how you want to see it now. And I think the idea is great, there's no doubt. I mean,
it's just the idea for now.
What better to actually beat the traffic blues, reach your location in time, come back in time, don't have to waste precious hours whiling away time and emitting pollution, for the environment. But will it take off? I really am skeptical at this moment.
I mean, you're skeptical about how soon?
No, I'm skeptical about the whole concept of air taxis, because we are yet to look at the safety security concerns.
Of course.
I mean, we've seen data of road crashes, road accidents. This can potentially definitely be life-threatening. Even road crashes are potentially life-threatening, but then there is enough probability with the safety security features built into cars today. And if you're geared up well, you're wearing a helmet, if you're on a two-wheeler, and if you're wearing a seatbelt, if you're in a car, there are good enough chances for you to not die. In an air taxi, 1 accident could actually kill 5 people. So I think a lot of policy changes will have to be made, a lot of clearances will have to be sought, a lot of safety, security features, mechanisms will have to be built in, and then of course the whole creation of infrastructure, right, from ATCs to launch pads to landing stations to applications around which you can book your taxi and ride or fly in it. I think a lot of ground needs to be covered, and 2026 definitely seems like a pipe dream, but it's sort of, turn around within this decade also, I hope I'm proven wrong, seems a little far-fetched right now.
Okay, a little far-fetched, that is the word coming in from Karthik at this point in time. Obviously, a lot of regulatory clearances, hurdles and policy framework that has to be arrived at. But hey, necessity is the mother of invention. So we never know. 2026 is what Aviation IndiGo, which is the parent company for IndiGo, is targeting. We'll of course have to wait and watch out, but air taxis are finally here. But with that, we've run out of time on this show. Thank you for watching.